Well, hello everybody. My name is Glenn Hadley. I'm the Senior Vice President of Strategy at Dreamscape Marketing. We're a part of SPM Group, and I'm really glad to be here with you guys today. And we've been a part of the Mental Health Marketing Conference for a number of years, and excited to see it grow and continue to grow. Before I really get into this, there's a couple of things that I really want you to know. And the first one is that my talk and being here today really is about you guys. And I want to challenge y'all today as professionals in this field to really dig into this topic, what I'm going to present, and hopefully take that back to your organizations. I've been on this mission, this personal mission this year to bang this drum in this space, because too many times I see operators coming into the space that don't really understand what we do in this world. They don't understand why we're here. They don't understand how to reach the market out there. And then once we get the market in our doors, what we do with them. And so I'm very passionate about this. And so I really hope that we can take this and take it back in an actionable way into our facilities. So I do want to ask, how many people here, raise your hand if you're if you're in leadership at an organization, a behavioral health organization, like CEO, CMO of an organization that treats people. All right, wonderful. How many of you are marketing professionals for an organization that treats people in behavioral health care? Wonderful. How many of you are in direct care treating patients? Awesome. How many of you are the recipients of a behavioral health care organization? Wonderful. I hope those hands keep going up more and more. Wonderful. Here's the reason why I ask is that I work for a marketing organization. We specialize in healthcare. We have right now in the behavioral health care space, we're operating 165 campaigns in behavioral health care alone, and we've put 164,000 people in treatment, and that's insurance verified patients into treatment. We operate coast to coast, and so we have some very comprehensive data to bring to the table. And personally, I've built 60 campaigns this year for operators. That's on the marketing side. I've also been in direct care. I've had a caseload. I've built programs. I've actually had my own behavioral health care organization that worked with developmental trauma. And so earlier on today, when we were talking about the ways that our workforce is clashing with one another, I have a lot of experience with that. We actually would go into different organizations and work with the intergenerational ways that we handle stress. And so if you're ever wondering, we see the data and we see that stress is an issue in our workforce. If you ever want to know how to actually work with that and work through that, we can talk after this and I'll tell you exactly how to deal with that, because we have. So I've had that experience as well. Also, I've actually been a recipient too. I've done a lot of different things over the years, put on a lot of events in behavioral health care too, But first, before we get started, before any of this, I do want to tell you probably one of the more interesting things about me. I grew up on a chicken farm in East Texas. You guys ever been to a chicken farm? I know you have. Yeah. Yep. So we have 64,000 chickens would come through every 9 weeks. That's a lot of chickens, right? Each chicken house is a football field long. You know what else that is too, right? It's a lot of crap. I mean, a lot. So 800 tons every 9 weeks. All right. Now, it was tough growing up on a farm doing that. I'd have friends that would come over and spend the night once. Wouldn't come back. And, but here's the thing. You grow up on a chicken farm and you just get used to it. I mean, it stinks. It smells all this stuff but you just get used to it. It's not a big deal. It's just part of and eventually, I know this is going to sound strange, you don't even smell it. It's not a big deal. So I tell you guys this because me and my sister, we grow up, we're out on this farm and we get used to it. It's just another thing. It's no big deal. So you know, we got these big tons of chicken crap laying around, whatever. And so like, it's like, y'all, it gets to where it's like dirt. Okay, and I'm building bike ramps with it and like, you know, all this stuff. Like, stuff you look at, oh my gosh, right? But yeah, it was just normal for us. You know, so one day we're out there and like me and my sister out, like, you know, it rained and so we're playing in the mud and pretty soon the mud turns to crap and we're throwing crap at each other. And so we're standing around there and we're covered in crap. And my dad comes running around the chicken house and he sees us and he starts yelling at us. He's like, guys, what are y'all doing? Like, what are you're covered in crap. You look at it, I mean, we just got so used to it, right? We didn't know anything. Look at each other, yeah, we were. The reason I tell you guys that story is that in marketing, in mental health marketing, we're so used to being in this crap, we don't even know anymore, right? Come on. We just don't know. We're doing the same thing over and over and over again. Because sometimes it takes someone to come along and say, hey, get out of that crap. And that's what I want to do. That's what I want us to do here. I want us to take that back to our organizations and say, we got to get out of this crap. Because look, like I said, I've done like 65 campaigns this year, and in behavioral health care, specifically substance use treatment, it's the same dang thing over and over again. I am so tired of putting together campaigns that's like performance website, SEO, and PPC, same converting keywords, it's the same thing. I'm so tired of it, right? Because back in the day, I used to be a professional tennis player, okay? And I was out there, I had an old team of people around me that it was their job to make sure that I could perform and perform well. And whenever I struggled with substance use disorder, they didn't know where to go, right? I was a person of means that had an issue. And the people around me, that their whole job was to make sure that I could perform on the tennis court, they didn't know where to go. And so you know what we did? Did a Google search. Just like 86% of people that struggle with mental health did a Google search. And I ended up in some place, right? And it worked out just perfectly for me. But here's the thing. This is what I just don't understand and didn't understand back then. I still don't today. Is that I had a need. I was a person of means, and I didn't know where to go for help. Once I got to the other side of that curtain, I found this whole world of people out there that were so committed to helping, that wanted to help, that would give you the shirt off their back. I mean, you guys, we work with them, right? We see them out there on the front lines that are like digging in, and they want to help so bad. And I'm like, how come I didn't know this whole world existed? Right? I still don't today. And so here's the reason why, and this is part of me banging the drum, is that I want to ask you a question. I want y'all to write it down. If you have one of a little piece of paper, I want you to take a second and I want you to write this down. What do we, as an industry in behavioral health care and mental health, what do we sell? What do we sell? It can be short, simple, write down a couple things, whatever you think. What do we sell in this space? We're going to come back to this here in just a little bit, but I want you to think about that. While you're doing that, I want to tell you just another quick little story, and I've actually talked to this young lady, and she's given me permission to use this story. So I want to tell you a little bit about Natalie, and this is whenever I was in direct care. And Natalie came to us. She was facing 24 years in prison for drug trafficking, and she struggled with substance use disorder. And she came to us, and this was a little bit longer term program that I was in direct care. And after 90 days of treatment, Natalie was still struggling. She hadn't reached that moment, we call it that moment of change, right? She hadn't reached that moment or that point where the change takes place. And on that last day, she was scheduled to go to, we advised her she should go to an extended care program, and she was fighting it. She did not want to go. She was telling, she couldn't see. This is a young woman that was facing 24 years in prison if she left treatment, and she couldn't see the truth, right? She couldn't see that she needed extended care. And so here's what we did, is that we surrounded her. We all sat with her and we talked with her. I spent an hour and a half with her individually. There was a number of other clinicians in direct care that spent time with her. The executive director did. Y'all, it was a train. We just kept coming through and just spending time with her and listening to her and sitting with her as she walked through this. And eventually at the end of that day, she said, I don't know why I'm going to do this, but I guess I'll go. I guess I'll go to extended care. Now, here's the cool thing that took place. She got into extended care, and after a few weeks there, something happened, right? And we saw that shift take place, and we could see the light come on in her eyes, and she lit up, and she started to like really engage in the community. She started to become a pillar in the community. She started to chair meetings. She started to take women through the experience of early recovery, and she became a pillar in the recovery community in that area, in that town. And crazy thing happened is she still went to jail. And she started working with women in jail. She started taking them through the recovery process in jail, and she came out and y'all, she was a tremendous success story, right? It really showed that this thing does work, right? Now, why do I tell you guys that? Because y'all, it's our job here to tell that story out there to the ones that need help, that this does work, right? This does work. What we do is important, right? And we've lost that along the way, all right? We've lost that message along the way of being able to tell that story. And I want to tell you, we're going to dig into a little bit of marketing stuff here, but there's some other parallels to draw, and I'll tell you why we've lost it. And that's why I think that, like, you know, this idea of we're marketing magic is, we have to get back to the core of that story, of that idea, right? And be able to tell that story out there, because here's the dirty little secret in all of this, right? If we get into the performance marketing stuff around it, is that, y'all, treatment works. The work that we do, the work that we represent is really good, right? You know, and David Weisstock is going to talk about this. Like, I love the outcomes work that we're starting to get into and starting to track these days, because I believe that we really do a good job out there. This idea that we're only successful 36% of the time is crap. Like, our people really do good work, and I want to start telling people that, okay? But here's what's happened, all right? Come on, we're in Nashville, we're in the South. You got to have some NASCAR fans out there, right? A few NASCAR fans. So, all right, how many of you guys are like real NASCAR fans? Have y'all watched NASCAR? Like, how many, we got any in the audience? Oh, all right, I got one back there. Awesome, cool. This works out really well. I'm in Nashville with no NASCAR fans. This is good. And y'all, you can't talk about NASCAR, you can't talk about marketing without talking about NASCAR, ever, right? Okay, so think back in the like late 90s, early 2000s. Some of you guys, like, I mean, y'all were a little bit. Can you tell me who was the most popular driver in NASCAR back then?
Dale Earnhardt.
Dale Earnhardt, right? Exactly. Dale Earnhardt. Awesome. All right, now we're going to go a little bit further down this rabbit hole. What color was his car? Black, right? Kelly, this is exactly what you were talking about this morning. You can start getting into color schemes and things like that. This is real important. All right, even more bonus points. Can you tell me the number on the car? 3. If you said 8, that's Junior. That's my guy. Okay. Number 3. All right, now, even more bonus points. Can you tell me the sponsor on the hood of his car? Close. BF Goodrich. Okay? Now I'm seeing some nods like, oh yeah, that's right, that was it. Now, if there were any real NASCAR fans in there, I'd ask you, like, what was his sunglass sponsor? Because Gargoyles. So, last week was the championship race for this season in NASCAR. Can anybody tell me who won? Besides the NASCAR fan back there. Derrick Henry, Man of the Year, did not win. No. It was Joey Logano. He won the championship this year. All right. Can anybody tell me who his main sponsor is on his car? Anybody know the color? Why is that? Why is it that we know so much about a driver that died in 2001 and we don't know anything about the guy that won the championship last week? What happened? See, here's the thing. This is what happened like back in the early 2000s is the cost of performance started to go up, right? In order to compete and race and win, that cost started to increase exponentially. And what happened is one sponsor couldn't fund a whole season anymore. You had to bring in another sponsor, right? Suddenly, the car wasn't black all year. The sponsor wasn't the same all year. You had multiple sponsors, multiple colors, and it was harder to identify with what was going on. That only increased. Before you know it, you even have multiple sponsors on a car, and they completely lost their identity. And now NASCAR is struggling. They really are. They're struggling for identity. I mean, you see, and I'll tell you something, the performance on the track is fantastic. It is the best that it's ever been. Back in NASCAR's heyday, you had Richard Petty, he won 200 races. That's a lot, right? And sometimes by 12, 15 laps. No one ever wins by that much anymore. The performance is so good now, but no one knows because we're not there. We're not watching it, right? We've lost our identity in that. Same thing too, like in a more well-known sport, NFL free agency, same exact thing happened. That took place. I put on the NFL Alumni Golf Tournament here every year, and I work with those guys, and I'll tell you something that there's so many misconceptions about the NFL, but the number one thing whenever you talk to the players, you know what they say NFL stands for? Not for long. Not for long, right? Because free agency came in, and they may play one contract, they may not, but the one thing is for certain is that it's not for long, right? You guys remember these guys, right? Tom Landry and Roger Staubach, even if you're like a Tennessee Titans fan or a Houston Oilers fan before that, right? Like, you guys remember the Dallas Cowboys, right? What's their name? What do they call them? America's team, right? They coined it back then, and we still call it America's team, even though they haven't been performing very well. That's all right. I'm a Saints fan, so, we have the same problem. But look, like that, this is the power of the brand, the identity. This is something that's lasted years, right? This picture was taken the year I was born, right? The year I was born, and yet we still know we call them America's team. That's the power of the brand. Here's one that hasn't lost it. Let's go Tigers. Right? We haven't lost the power of the brand in this in college football. Y'all, in college football, we cannot build stadiums big enough. Right? We keep expanding every year. How does that relate to behavioral health care? Have you tried to be a part of one of their alumni associations? We pay a lot of money to be a part of that alumni association. All because there's an identity. There's this core belief and core idea that whenever you go to this institution, you're going to be a part of something bigger than yourself. Right? It's what we've lost in behavioral health care. So we've lost in mental health. Another negative example. You guys have y'all watched the USFL game? You guys even know what it is? They're about to start season 2 in April. The games that they have are actually not bad. If you ever get a chance to watch it, like just say, the on-field product is pretty good. The stands are empty though, right? Because they've got no story, they've got no identity, they don't know who they are, and there's nothing to gravitate towards, there's nothing to hold on to. There's no core idea, core belief, it's just a product. So, I'm going to tie this back even more. So, how does this tie into sports in this? So, like we have 332 million Americans, 10% of them experience SUD. That's enough to fill 30 football stadiums, our audience, right? 16 times. These are all the people out there that need the services that your organizations provide. And they're looking for them, I know. Why do you think we're so, we're the performance marketing wing of SPM Group, okay? And we are extremely valuable in the mental health arena because all of these people that need help, where do they go for help? I just moved to Golden, Colorado, okay? And I went out there, and so I'm new to town. I moved to town, and I've got 2 kids out there with me, and they need a dentist, okay? And so what I do is I go to the neighbor next door, and I say, hey, look, I just moved to town, and I need a dentist for my kids. And they're like, oh, this is great. You go down to Golden Pediatric Dentistry. They're fantastic people. You talk to Dr. Savage, even though it's got a weird name. He's a good dentist. He's amazing. Go there, and you'll have a great experience. And so I do. I go there. But that same conversation doesn't take place when it comes to mental health. Right? Like I can't go to my neighbor and say, hey, look, my 27-year-old son, he's like, I don't know, he's in the bathroom, looks like he overdosed on fentanyl. Where should I take him? That doesn't take place. That conversation doesn't happen. You know what does happen is that the same person, me, I go to Google and I say, my son is in the bathroom, unresponsive, what do I do? Like, what is fentanyl, right? What do I do in an overdose? Where do I go for detox? Right? So how do we reach these people? If that's the one source, if that's where people are going for information, like how do we reach people? Right? We got to know what we do. We got to do it well. We got to know what we don't do and market it authentically. So let's have a conversation real quick about this, and I want to go back to what do we sell? So give me some answers. Like what did you put out there what did you write down for what do we sell in this space? Connection. I like that. Hope. What else? Healing. What is it? Huh? Healing. What else? Experience. You're not alone. Positive outcomes. What else? Relief. Any others? A new perspective. Wonderful. So I do this a lot all over the country, and I ask everybody this. I did done a number of branding workshops as organizations come together, and with this move towards consolidation in the space, we've had a lot of consolidation of programs around the country, and so I get the chance to go in and talk to these leadership groups about how to bring their organization together, and I always ask them in the very beginning, I say, what do you sell? And I get a lot of these really good answers. And what do you think the number one answer I get is? Number one answer? Hope. Hope is the number one answer I get. And so this is what I ask them. I say, when was the last time you got reimbursed for hope? Y'all, that's a really big question. When's the last time you got reimbursed for hope? Then how do you measure that? How do you quantify hope? And then how do you actually have a real repeatable outcome that you can then sell? That's not a thing. We don't sell hope. This is an industry. I mean, $1 billion industry. It is, by the way, and maybe you guys can prove me wrong. I haven't found it yet, but is there another $1 billion industry that's predicated on lived experience? Think about the operators you work with and work for. How many of them, and I get this a lot, like come into the space and they have no business acumen, they've got no prior business history, but they have lived experience that they're bringing to the table. And they've built a multi-million-dollar business on that. I'm not discounting that, by the way. I think it's an extremely important piece of what we do. But that's part of the problem, right? If we in this room, like we are the professionals in the industry. We're the ones that are reaching out to these the potential patients, the people that need help. Okay? We are the experts at messaging and putting that out there to connect, right? And if we can't agree on what we're selling in the industry, how's a person that needs help, that doesn't know anything about it, how are they going to figure it out? This is where I'm challenging you. I'm challenging us as a field to organize behind this and try to clarify this. Because if we can't agree, then how are we going to help the people that need help? So I have a thought. And I've been doing these around the country. Our little marketing lunch after this is really a focus group for this. And what I would like to do is I would like to put together a group over the next year or 2 years and do a national branding campaign to rebrand the mental health industry. Do you guys know when this happened before? Do y'all remember? Like there was a big national campaign around, specifically it was around substance use. Do y'all remember what it was? This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. Remember how powerful that was? Maybe it wasn't correct, but it was powerful. We remember that. No, I really want to do that in this space, nationwide, but do it the right way. It shows what we sell. What do we do? What can someone expect whenever they need the help and they enter into our services, right? I want to do that. I need your help with that because this is your brain on drugs. It's so simple and it's so clean and it's so clear that it's easy. We do remember it. But all of these things that we put out there, like I think that there's some parts of it that are true. How do we clarify that and bring that down? How do we drill that down into a singular message and then put it out there? I want y'all to chew on that, and then we can have conversations around that the rest of the day today and tomorrow, and come find me. We'll talk about it. I've had some pretty good thoughts, and people have brought some pretty good insight to it. Here's two of the ones. I'll just throw it out there as kind of a thought. There's two that have been brought to me. The first one is, and this is around substance use treatment. It's treatment does not equal sobriety. That was one that was brought up. I thought that was a pretty interesting point. Made people think, like, what do you mean? So chew on that. And then the other one that we hear a lot, but really could be a national campaign, is that the opposite of addiction is connection. I think both of those are have some powerful messages. But please, like I've been doing them this year, think about that, chew on that. Please bring it to me. I'm going to get just a little bit into some of the marketing stuff around like what we see in marketing mixes in the space, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. This is kind of what we see here whenever we see people putting together a marketing budget. This is what I'm talking about whenever I'm saying it's very similar. These are the things that we see when a new operator comes in. We hear the same thing. We're like, we set up this treatment facility. We're going to be a mental health primary. We're going to be dual diagnosis, or we're going to be SUD. And they come to us and they say, like, we've got this beautiful 40-acre ranch. We have horses and this, and it's like the food is fantastic. And we do CBD, BBD, boopity, BBD. But what really separates us is our people. That's what we hear over and over and over again. And y'all, how many times can we put that on a website? It's boring. But anyway, they ask us, they're like, well, we want all of our admissions to come through digital. That's not a thing. Okay? We'd love for it to. It's not a thing. This is the kind of the mix that we put out there. It's about 35% digital, 35% BD, and about 30% for alumni. That's kind of what we see. We help them create a real marketing budget that's predicated on some of these metrics here. And we can get granular about any of this, but the reason why I'm showing some of this is because you as the marketing professionals, if you work for an organization, regardless of the size, many times you're going to have to take this back to your leadership, because if they're coming at it from lived experience, they may not know this, right? They may not know that this is what goes into it. And so I have to teach them a lot of times. I have to teach the operators because I had to be taught, right? So being able to break it down to them and talk to them about what is the difference between branded and organic, right? What does that look like? I got into a little argument with a CMO of a very large organization, and he was talking to me about, he's like, Glenn, like you're telling me like, you can get a $3,500 CPA for a patient, an in-network patient. And he's like, I can get a $400 CPA. And I was like, well, that's really good. Like, is that branded or organic search? Because I can get a really, really low CPA for a branded search. Organic's a little bit different, right? Having those conversations with them to educate them, because, assuming that the operator knows, most of the time my experience is the operator doesn't know. Some other data that we see is 10% of the online admissions come from business development. You guys that have operated in this space, y'all know the battle between BD and marketing, right? Like we see that a lot where we put this campaign together and we're driving traffic to the website. We're getting a decent CPA, a good number of admissions, and then business development will come in and say, well, yeah, but I just visited this place and that admission's coming from us and this and that. Here's what we see from all of our campaigns. And y'all, we've done about 800 total in this space. We see about 10% of the admissions are attributed to business development. Okay? That's the real number. Let's see. If you're a vendor out there, if you operate within mental health and you service the providers in behavioral health or mental health, we see focus more on the business develop. The B2B. You don't need a huge organic campaign. I see that a lot. Like people come in and they say, "Well, I want to do I want to spend a lot of money on SEO." Well, that's great if you're a provider that's treating people, but if you're an ancillary service that's servicing the providers themselves, a lot more social media there. Don't need necessarily a huge SEO component. Let's see, anything else I want to touch on? I think I'm running out of time. I don't want to do that. I do want to talk about alumni though, real quick. We do a little bit of work in senior living as well, and staffing is a huge deal for them right now. It's gigantic in that space. And they are really having a tough time staffing up through the pandemic and then afterwards, and we're seeing it all across for the reasons we've talked about earlier. And the speakers have have really touched on. But y'all, we have this pool of people in behavioral health care and mental health, and they're our alumni, and they are our best ambassadors, right? They're our best ambassadors. And investing in them throughout the process, throughout their own treatment episode and afterwards, and investing in them is also investing in staff attraction and retention. And just like some of the stories that I was telling you earlier, you will never have a better ambassador of your programs than someone that's lived it, right? Now, how do we as marketing professionals leverage that? So here's what I give this away, but we tell this to all of our operators to say that if we're out there and we're really like trying to sell this bond and this connection and show people the connection that's going to be made, then what I do is I encourage them all to take videos of their staff members and ask one simple question. Say, why are you here? It's amazing to see the responses from that. All you got to do is just have an iPhone ready to go, right? And ask them, like, why are you here? Because look, I grew up wanting to be a professional tennis player. That's what I wanted to do. I did not grow up saying, you know what, I'm going to be an addict, homeless, and end up in behavioral health care. And no one really does, right? So ask the people that are in direct care, ask your alumni, why are you here? And let them go and listen to the stories. And then what we do is we take the interview and we transcribe it into text right below it and print it on the screen. It's great. You have very unique content specific to your provider. It's fantastic. All right, let's see. So what do we sell? Here's what I believe that we sell. Okay, let me see if I have it up there. Yep. So I believe that we sell two things in behavioral health care. I believe that we sell a safe environment or a safe place for either medical detox from drugs or alcohol, or a safe place to walk through a psychiatric event. Okay? Like that's the first piece of what we sell, that safe environment. And the second thing that I believe we sell is the therapeutic alliance between the patient and the provider providing the care. So whoever said connection, you get bonus points. That's exactly what it is. It's that bond. It's that connection between the patient and the person giving care. I'm a big fan of Scott Miller's work, and if you guys get a chance there's a book called The Heart and Soul of Change. I highly recommend, if you work in this field, to read that, because it talks about this connection, this bond that's made, and how that really is the thing. That is the number one determinant of a positive outcome in a therapeutic interaction, is that connection, that alliance, right? At least the one that we have control over, right? And here's the kicker, it doesn't matter how it's made. So we look for, in marketing, we look for key differentiators, right? How can we differentiate these programs? And if we don't clearly define our product and we don't know exactly what we sell, like all we're left to, the only differentiator we have between, let's say, a $120,000 a month program that has a bowling alley actually in the room, right? Or a medical model detox that has very acute care. The only way to differentiate those two is to say one's better than the others. Mine's better than yours, right? But I don't believe that. Going back, I think that we do give good care, right? And if we can say that the product and what we're actually selling is that therapeutic alliance and that bond between the patient and provider, now both are right. It's now we get to decide, or help the patient to decide, in what environment are they going to be safe, and in what environment are they going to be more likely to establish that connection with the provider. Now, one's not right and one's not wrong. They're both appropriate, and it's up to us to help the client figure out which one's better for them. Now they're all right, because I'll tell you, I've seen some amazing providers out there that have connected with patients in a sweat lodge, out in the wilderness, and in a hospital setting in Houston, Texas. All the same. I've seen that bond be created, and I've seen healing take place in all of those different types of settings, and many, many more. One's not right and one's not wrong. They're both appropriate for a certain type of patient. Now, if we can agree on that's our product, that's what we're selling, and then go out there and let's start celebrating the differences, I think that's where we can really make a big difference. So, are we marketing magic? Absolutely we are. And it's up to you guys to find out what those differences are. How are we going to make that connection? And then how are we going to get it out there to the masses? Know what we sell, clearly define it, and then reach out to those people that are struggling so we can get them into the services and introduce them to all of us who really want to help. So, thank you guys. I appreciate it. We're running out of time.